The strongest concrete in the world can still fail. Not because the concrete was weak, but because of decisions made long before it was ever mixed. Imagine two families. They both save for years to build their dream homes. They buy similar plots, hire experienced-looking contractors, approve professionally drawn plans, use quality materials. Month after month, both projects rise from the ground. Neighbors admire the progress. The roofs go on. The paint is finished. The keys are handed over. From the street, the two houses look almost identical. But something very different is happening beneath the surface. 5 years later, one house still feels as solid as the day it was completed. The doors close smoothly. The floors remain level. The walls stay clean and unbroken. The owners barely think about the structure beneath their feet. The other house tells a different story. Small cracks begin appearing around the windows. A door no longer closes properly. Floor tiles start separating. Hairline cracks spread across the walls. The owners blame the weather, the contractor, the materials, even bad luck. But the real story began years earlier, before the first block was laid. Because buildings rarely fail overnight. They fail slowly, quietly, almost invisibly. And by the time the warning signs become obvious, the mistake has usually become very expensive to fix. Most people believe that the foundation is simply the concrete beneath a building. But that isn't what a foundation really is. A foundation is a chain of decisions. The decision to understand the soil. The decision to prepare the ground correctly. The decision to choose the right structural system. The decision to supervise the work. The decision to give concrete enough time to become strong. Break just one link in that chain, and the entire building may spend decades paying the price. In our last investigation, we discovered that a perfect house design cannot rescue poor planning. Today, we take the next step. Because even the perfect drawing cannot rescue poor construction. In this investigation, we'll uncover 7 foundation and construction mistakes that quietly destroy homes from the ground up. We'll discover why some buildings remain strong for generations, while others begin failing long before they should. We'll follow the journey of a house from bare ground to finished structure, investigating the hidden decisions that determine whether it becomes a lasting investment or an expensive lesson. Most importantly, you'll learn how to recognize these mistakes before they become part of your own project. Because once the walls begin cracking, the real problem usually lies somewhere you can no longer see. So before another shovel enters the ground, before another truck delivers concrete, before another foundation is poured, let's investigate what truly holds a house together. Because the strongest homes are not built by chance. They're built by decisions. And the first one begins beneath your feet. Investigation 1. Imagine standing on an empty construction site. No excavation. No trenches. No reinforcement. Nothing but bare earth stretching out before you. To most people, construction hasn't started yet. But to an experienced architect or engineer, some of the most important construction decisions have already begun. The ground is already giving instructions. The only question is anyone listening? Most construction failures don't begin with concrete. They begin with assumptions. Someone assumes the soil is good enough. Someone assumes the foundation used on the neighboring plot will work here too. Someone assumes that because the land looks flat, the ground beneath it must also be stable. Construction has a way of punishing assumptions. The earth beneath every building has one job: carry the weight above it. Not just today, but next year, 10 years from now, 50 years from now. Every wall, every roof, every beam, every floor, every piece of furniture, and every person who will ever live inside that home will eventually transfer their weight into the ground. The question isn't whether the ground can carry the building today. The question is whether it can continue carrying it for decades. That is where our investigation begins. Mistake number 1. Choosing the wrong foundation for the ground beneath it. Imagine asking two doctors to prescribe exactly the same medicine without examining either patient. It sounds ridiculous, because good treatment always begins with a diagnosis. Yet this is surprisingly similar to what happens on many construction projects. A homeowner visits a relative's newly completed house. They admire the building. Then they ask a simple question. "What type of foundation did you use?" The answer comes quickly. Strip foundation. Or perhaps raft foundation, pad foundation, or another system. The homeowner smiles. "Perfect. I'll use the same." But buildings don't choose their foundations. The ground does. This is one of the most expensive misunderstandings in construction. Many people believe foundations are selected according to the size of the house. In reality, foundation design depends on many factors working together. The structural loads, the condition of the soil, groundwater, site history, local building practices, engineering requirements, and the recommendations of qualified professionals. Two houses may look almost identical above ground, yet require completely different foundation solutions below it. Imagine two plots separated only by a narrow fence. One sits on firm, well-compacted ground. The other contains weaker soil beneath the surface. From above, they look exactly the same, but underground, they tell two completely different stories. Build the same foundation on both plots without understanding those differences, and one building may perform very differently from the other over time. The concrete didn't fail. The builder didn't necessarily fail. The decision failed. Brick and brain field note. A foundation should never be chosen because it works somewhere else. It should be chosen because it works here. That single word, here, can save years of costly repairs. Now let's think about something else. Foundations don't simply support weight. They spread weight. Imagine pressing your finger onto soft sand. The sand sinks beneath the pressure. Now place a flat board on the same sand and press again. The weight spreads across a much larger area. The pressure changes. The same principle applies beneath a building. The goal of a foundation is not simply to hold the structure up. It is to transfer its load safely into the ground in a way the soil can support. When that relationship is misunderstood, problems begin quietly. Small movements, tiny settlements, hairline cracks, doors that slowly become difficult to close, floors that no longer feel perfectly level. These symptoms rarely appear overnight. They are often the visible result of decisions made months or even years earlier. Another mistake occurs when homeowners believe that making a foundation bigger automatically makes it better. More concrete doesn't always mean more safety. An oversized foundation can increase costs unnecessarily if it isn't based on sound engineering. Likewise, reducing the foundation simply to save money can leave a building without the support it requires. Good engineering isn't about using the most concrete. It's about using the right solution for the actual conditions. Now imagine constructing your dream home on land that was once a filled pond, or an old borrow pit, or an area where previous excavation changed the ground conditions. Without proper investigation, those hidden conditions remain invisible until the building begins responding to them. The frustrating part is this: by the time cracks appear above ground, the real problem is usually buried beneath tons of concrete, and correcting it becomes far more difficult than preventing it. That's why experienced professionals spend so much time studying what no one will ever see. Because the strongest part of a house is often the part that disappears forever beneath the soil. But choosing the correct foundation is only the beginning. Even the best foundation design can fail if the ground beneath it is poorly prepared. And surprisingly, some of the most expensive mistakes happen before the first wheelbarrow of concrete ever arrives. That's where our investigation goes next. Mistake number 2. Building on ground that was never properly prepared. Imagine buying the strongest safe in the world. It's made from reinforced steel. It has the most advanced locking system. It's designed to protect valuables for decades. Now imagine placing that safe on a sheet of thin ice. No matter how strong the safe is, its success now depends on what is beneath it. A house works the same way. The strength of a building is never determined by concrete alone. It depends on the quality of the ground supporting that concrete. This is why experienced builders understand something that many first-time homeowners don't. Construction doesn't begin when the concrete truck arrives. It begins when the site is prepared. And unfortunately, this is where some of the most damaging shortcuts are taken. After excavation, the ground doesn't automatically become ready for a foundation. Sometimes loose soil remains. Sometimes organic material such as roots or decaying vegetation is still present. Sometimes previous fill has not been properly compacted. Sometimes rain softens exposed ground before construction continues. To an untrained eye, everything may look ready. But beneath the surface, the ground may still be moving. Imagine laying a thick concrete slab on a mattress. At first, everything appears stable. But as weight is added, the mattress compresses. Not evenly. Not predictably. The concrete above begins responding to movement below. The same principle applies when a building rests on poorly prepared ground. The building isn't necessarily failing because the concrete is weak. It's reacting to movement beneath it. Brick and brain field note. Concrete cannot correct unstable ground. It simply transfers the consequences upward. That's why preparing the ground properly is just as important as constructing the foundation itself. Now let's talk about compaction. Compaction simply means reducing the empty spaces between soil particles so the ground becomes denser and more stable. Proper compaction helps reduce future settlement and provides more reliable support for the structure above. But here's where problems begin. Sometimes fill material is placed too quickly. Sometimes it's added in layers that are too thick. Sometimes it's never compacted to the standard required for the project. Everything still looks level. Everything still looks neat. Construction continues. Months later, or even years later, the ground begins settling. Not because something suddenly went wrong, but because the ground was never fully stable in the first place. Settlement itself isn't always a problem. Many buildings experience small amounts of settlement as they adjust to the loads placed upon them. The concern is uneven settlement. When one part of a building moves differently from another, stress begins building inside the structure. Walls crack. Tiles separate. Windows become difficult to operate. Doors rub against their frames. These visible defects often have an invisible cause. Now imagine two construction sites. On the first site, the contractor spends several extra days preparing and compacting the ground. Some people complain that the work seems slow. On the second site, construction moves ahead immediately. Concrete is poured sooner. The project appears to be progressing faster. From the road, the second project looks more efficient. But construction isn't a race. It's a sequence. Skipping a step doesn't remove it. It simply postpones the consequences. Experienced professionals understand that every stage of construction depends on the quality of the stage before it. Preparation supports the foundation. The foundation supports the structure. The structure supports everything else. If the first step is compromised, every step after it inherits that compromise. This is why some of the most valuable work on a construction site is also the least visible. Once the foundation is complete, no one admires the compacted soil beneath it. Visitors praise the finished walls, the roof, the paint, the beautiful tiles. Yet none of those things could perform properly without the unseen work completed first. Good construction often looks ordinary while it's happening. Its value becomes obvious only years later. But even perfectly prepared ground cannot protect a building if one critical material is misunderstood. A material so common that people often assume it takes care of itself. Concrete. And that's where our next investigation begins. Mistake number 3. Treating concrete like it becomes strong overnight. Imagine baking a loaf of bread. You carefully measure every ingredient. You use the finest flour, the freshest yeast. the cleanest water. You mix everything perfectly. Then, halfway through baking, you remove it from the oven because you're in a hurry. From the outside, it may already look like bread. But inside, it hasn't finished becoming what it was designed to be. Concrete behaves in a surprisingly similar way. One of the biggest misconceptions in construction is believing that concrete becomes strong the moment it hardens. Walk past a newly poured foundation the next morning, and it already looks solid. You can touch it. It feels hard. Some people assume that because it feels strong, it must already be strong. But appearance can be misleading. Concrete doesn't gain its strength overnight. It develops strength gradually through a chemical process called hydration. When cement and water are mixed together, they begin reacting. That reaction continues over time, allowing the concrete to become progressively stronger. This is why patience is one of the most important construction materials. Even though you can't buy it in a bag. Brick and brain field note. Concrete doesn't become strong because it dries. It becomes strong because the cement continues reacting with water. Helping that process continue is one of the most important jobs on a construction site. Now imagine two contractors. Both use the same concrete mix. Both pour their foundations on the same day. Both finish with smooth, professional-looking surfaces. From a distance, the work appears identical. But their decisions after the pour are very different. The first contractor understands that fresh concrete needs time and proper care. They help prevent it from losing moisture too quickly, allowing hydration to continue as intended. The second contractor is eager to move ahead. Work resumes almost immediately. The concrete receives little attention after placement. The schedule becomes more important than the process. Months later, the difference may still be invisible. Years later, it may not be. This is why experienced builders never judge concrete by how it looks on the first day. They understand that today's decisions influence tomorrow's performance. Now let's think about the weather. Imagine pouring concrete during a hot afternoon with strong sunshine and dry winds. Moisture leaves the surface rapidly. If that moisture disappears too quickly, the hydration process can be affected. Now imagine pouring during heavy rainfall. Excess water can also create challenges if the concrete is not properly protected. Good construction isn't simply about following a recipe. It's about responding to real conditions on site. The weather becomes part of the project. Another common mistake is assuming that adding more water automatically makes concrete better because it's easier to work with. Fresh concrete may become more fluid and easier to place. But adding water beyond what the mix was designed for can reduce the hardened concrete's performance. What looks like a small shortcut during placement can influence the finished product long after construction ends. Experienced contractors know that convenience during pouring should never come at the expense of long-term durability. Because buildings are expected to last for decades. Not just until the inspection is complete. Now imagine standing beside a newly completed foundation. The temptation is understandable. Everything looks ready. The next stage of construction is waiting. Workers are eager to continue. Time is money. But construction has a rhythm. Every stage depends on the one before it reaching the condition it was designed to achieve. Trying to force that rhythm rarely saves time. It usually transfers risk into the future. The strongest builders aren't always the fastest. They're the ones who understand when patience protects the project. By now, we've discovered that strong foundations depend on more than concrete. They depend on good ground, proper preparation, and allowing the material enough time to develop its intended performance. But even perfectly prepared concrete cannot compensate for another silent mistake. Because a foundation is not just concrete. Hidden inside it is a carefully planned framework that gives it strength where concrete alone cannot. And that's where our next investigation takes us. Steel reinforcement. Mistake number 4. Getting the reinforcement wrong. Imagine building a bridge out of stone. The stone is strong. It can carry enormous weight. But there is one problem. It struggles when forces try to pull it apart or bend it. This is one of the reasons modern construction uses a powerful partnership. Concrete and steel. Concrete is extremely good at handling compression, the forces that push and squeeze a material. Steel, on the other hand, performs very well when dealing with tension, the forces that try to stretch or pull a material apart. Together, they create reinforced concrete, a system that has transformed the way buildings are constructed around the world. But like any partnership, it only works when both parts are used correctly. And this is where another major construction mistake begins. Many homeowners look at reinforcement steel and simply see metal rods inside concrete. But those rods are not placed randomly. Every bar has a purpose. Every diameter. Every spacing. Every connection. Every position inside the concrete. All of these decisions contribute to how the structure carries loads. A few centimeters in the wrong direction can change how effectively the reinforcement performs. Brick and brain field note. In construction, close enough is often not the same as correct. Structural components are designed with specific requirements for a reason. Now imagine a team designing a safety harness. The material is excellent. The straps are strong. The buckles are high quality. But during assembly, someone decides to remove a few connections because they seem unnecessary. The harness may still look fine until the moment it is needed. Reinforcement works in a similar way. A foundation or structural element may appear complete. The steel may be visible and impressive. But if the arrangement doesn't match the design requirements, the performance of the entire system can be affected. One common problem is incorrect bar placement. Steel needs to be positioned where the structural forces require it. Placing reinforcement in the wrong location can reduce its effectiveness. It is not enough to simply add more steel. The right steel must be placed in the right position. Another issue is insufficient concrete cover. Concrete does more than surround the steel. It protects it. Steel reinforcement exposed to moisture and oxygen can eventually corrode. As steel corrodes, it expands. That expansion creates pressure inside the concrete. Over time, this can contribute to cracking and deterioration. The concrete cover acts as a protective barrier. The correct amount depends on the structural element, environmental exposure, and applicable standards. This is why reinforcement details are not merely drawings on paper. They are instructions for protecting the future of the building. Now let's talk about something that happens frequently on construction sites. Changes. A contractor encounters a challenge. Materials are delayed. A certain bar size is unavailable. The site condition is different from what was expected. Someone suggests a quick adjustment. Let's just reduce this. Let's remove that. It should be fine. Sometimes changes are necessary during construction. But the dangerous part is making structural changes without proper review. Because a decision that seems small on site can affect the entire load path of the building. The structure doesn't know that someone was trying to save time. It only responds to the forces acting on it. Another mistake is poor quality control during installation. Reinforcement can become displaced when workers walk over it during construction. Bars can shift during concrete placement. Connections may not be properly completed. Small details can become major problems if nobody is paying attention. This is why supervision matters. Good drawings create the plan. Good workmanship brings that plan to life. You need both. Imagine two houses built from identical drawings. Same architect. Same materials. Same structural design. But one project has careful supervision at every stage. The other relies entirely on assumptions. At completion, both houses may look identical. But their future performance may be very different. Because quality is not created only in the design office. It is created on the construction site. Every day. Every decision. Every detail. By now, we've investigated the foundation decisions that happen before and during concrete work. But there is another mistake that can quietly destroy even the best designed structure. And it happens when the drawings are correct. The materials are available. But the people building the project do not follow the required standards. Because sometimes the biggest threat to a building isn't the design. It's the workmanship. And that's where our next investigation begins. Mistake number 5. Poor workmanship and lack of construction supervision. Imagine giving a world-class chef the perfect recipe. The ingredients are premium. The instructions are detailed. The measurements are precise. Everything needed to create an exceptional meal is available. But then someone ignores the recipe. The cooking time is reduced. The ingredients are substituted without understanding why. Important steps are skipped because they seem unnecessary. The final result may still look like food, but it will never become what it was supposed to be. Construction works the same way. A building can have excellent drawings, a qualified architect, a carefully designed structural system, high-quality materials, and still fail if the work on site does not follow the intended process. This is one of the most overlooked truths in construction. A drawing is only a promise. The construction site is where that promise is tested. Brick and brain field note. Good design creates the possibility of a good building. Good workmanship creates the reality. Now imagine 2 construction projects. Both begin with the same architectural drawings. Both use the same specifications. Both have similar budgets. But their journeys are completely different. On the first site, supervisors regularly check progress. Measurements are verified. Materials are inspected. Problems are identified early. Workers understand the importance of each stage. On the second site, construction moves forward with little oversight. Small mistakes are ignored. Minor shortcuts become normal. Everyone assumes someone else is checking. At first, the difference may not be obvious. The walls rise. The roof is installed. The finishes are completed. Both buildings may even look impressive. But buildings reveal their quality over time. The first home continues performing as expected. The second begins showing problems. Not because one project had better luck. Because one project had better control. Now let's explore why workmanship matters so much. Construction is not simply putting materials together. It is a sequence of carefully connected actions. The excavation must reach the correct level. The foundation must be positioned correctly. The reinforcement must follow the design. The concrete must be properly placed. The blocks must be correctly aligned. Waterproofing must be installed properly. Every stage influences the next. A small mistake early in the process can create a larger problem later. Imagine building a wall on an incorrect foundation line. The first few blocks may not reveal the issue. But as the wall rises, the error becomes harder to correct. By the time it is noticed, more materials have already been added. More labor has already been spent. The cost of correction increases. This is why experienced builders understand the importance of checking work at every stage. Not after everything is finished. After finishing is often too late. Brick and brain field note. Quality control is cheapest before a mistake becomes permanent. Now let's talk about one of the most common causes of construction problems. The pressure to save money. Everyone wants a cost-effective project. That is completely understandable. Construction is expensive. Budgets are limited. But there is a dangerous difference between reducing unnecessary costs and reducing essential quality. A cheaper material may not perform the same way. A less experienced worker may not understand critical details. Removing supervision may save money temporarily. But if those decisions create defects later, the repair costs can be far greater. The cheapest option during construction is not always the cheapest option over the lifetime of the building. Another challenge is communication. A construction project involves many people. The client, architect, engineers, contractors, subcontractors, suppliers. Each person plays a role. When communication breaks down, mistakes become more likely. A contractor may misunderstand a detail. A client may request a change without considering the consequences. A worker may follow outdated instructions. Good communication prevents small misunderstandings from becoming expensive problems. Now imagine buying a car. You wouldn't only inspect the paint after purchase. You would want to know whether the engine was assembled correctly, whether the safety systems work, whether the vehicle was tested properly. A house deserves the same thinking. The finishes are what people see. The workmanship is what determines whether those finishes survive. Because a beautiful building with poor construction quality is only beautiful temporarily. Over time, reality always reveals the truth. By now, we've investigated 5 major mistakes. Choosing the wrong foundation, preparing the ground incorrectly, rushing concrete, getting reinforcement wrong, and allowing poor workmanship. But there is still another hidden danger. A mistake that often happens when people focus only on building quickly. They forget that every building must protect itself from one powerful force: water. And when water enters places it doesn't belong, it can quietly damage a home for years. That brings us to our next investigation. Mistake number 6. Ignoring waterproofing and moisture control. Water is one of the most powerful forces in construction. Not because it destroys buildings instantly, but because it rarely announces itself. A collapsed wall gets attention. A major structural failure makes headlines. But moisture? Moisture works quietly. A small leak, a damp patch, a little discoloration, a slight smell. At first, these problems seem harmless. Many homeowners ignore them. They paint over them. They cover them with finishes. They assume they are only cosmetic issues. But water has patience. And over time, it finds a way to reveal every weakness in a building. Imagine leaving a small drop of water on a piece of metal every day. One drop seems insignificant. 1,000 drops still seem manageable. But over time, the effect becomes impossible to ignore. Buildings experience the same reality. A tiny moisture problem today can become an expensive repair problem tomorrow. Brick and brain field note. A building does not only need strength, it needs protection from the environment around it. This is why waterproofing is not a luxury. It is part of protecting the life of the building. Now let's return to the foundation. Most people think the foundation's only job is carrying weight. But the foundation also exists in a difficult environment. It is surrounded by soil. And soil often contains moisture. Without proper protection, water can gradually move through materials and create long-term problems. One common issue is rising damp. This happens when moisture from the ground moves upward through porous building materials. Think of a sponge touching water. The sponge doesn't need to be fully submerged before moisture begins moving through it. Building materials can behave in a similar way. That is why construction uses protective measures such as damp-proof courses and other moisture control strategies. Their purpose is simple: prevent unwanted water movement into parts of the building where it can cause damage. But these protections only work when they are correctly installed. A missing detail, a damaged layer, poor workmanship, or an incorrect installation sequence can reduce their effectiveness. Now imagine a homeowner who spends millions on beautiful finishes, premium tiles, expensive paint, designer furniture. Everything looks perfect. But underneath those finishes, a moisture problem is slowly developing. Eventually, paint begins peeling. Plaster starts deteriorating. Woodwork begins swelling. Mold appears. The homeowner focuses on replacing the damaged finishes. But the real problem is still active. The source of the water was never solved. This is a common mistake: treating the symptom instead of investigating the cause. Brick and brain field note. A damp wall is not the problem. It is evidence of a problem. The question is always, where is the water coming from? Now let's look above the building. The roof. A roof is not simply a decorative covering. It is one of the home's main defense systems against weather. Poor roof detailing can allow water to enter slowly. A small failure around flashing, a poorly sealed joint, a damaged waterproof layer, an incorrectly positioned drainage point. Any of these can create pathways for water. And because water follows gravity, the visible damage may appear far away from where the problem actually began. A leak on the roof may eventually appear as a stain on an interior ceiling. A plumbing leak behind a wall may remain hidden until serious damage has already occurred. This is why finding water problems requires investigation, not just repair. Now let's consider external drainage. A well-built house still needs to manage the water around it. Rain falling on the roof, water flowing across the site, moisture collecting near foundations. All of these require planning. If water consistently remains close to the building, the risk increases. The solution is not simply stronger walls. The solution is controlling where water goes. This connects back to our previous investigation about land and drainage. A house does not exist separately from its environment. The building and the site must work together. Now imagine two houses built with identical materials. Same concrete. Same blocks. Same finishes. But one has careful moisture protection. The other treats waterproofing as an afterthought. For the first few years, both houses may look identical. Then time begins revealing the difference. The protected house ages gracefully. The other begins requiring constant repairs. Not because the materials were necessarily poor. Because one building was prepared for the environment. The other was not. This is an important lesson. A strong house is not just a house that can carry weight. It is a house that can survive the forces trying to damage it. And water is one of those forces. But there is one final mistake that can undo all the careful decisions we've discussed. A mistake that happens when homeowners believe construction ends once the keys are handed over. The truth is, a building needs a plan not only for how it is built, but how it is cared for. And that leads us to our final investigation. Mistake number 7. Ignoring maintenance and long-term building care. Imagine spending years saving money. You finally build your dream home. The foundation is strong. The construction was carefully supervised. The finishes are beautiful. The keys are handed over. For many homeowners, this feels like the finish line. But in reality, it is the beginning of a new responsibility. Because a building is not a product you buy once and forget. A building is a living system that constantly interacts with the environment. Rain, heat, humidity, wind, daily use, time. All of these forces slowly affect a house. And without proper care, even a well-designed and well-built home can begin to deteriorate. Brick and brain field note. Construction creates a building. Maintenance protects the investment. One of the biggest mistakes homeowners make is believing maintenance is only necessary when something breaks. But experienced property owners think differently. They don't wait for failure. They prevent it. Because fixing a small problem early is almost always cheaper than repairing a major problem later. Imagine noticing a small roof leak during the rainy season. You have two choices. You can investigate and repair it immediately. Or you can ignore it because the damage seems minor. Months later, the problem becomes worse. Water damages ceilings. Paint begins peeling. Woodwork starts deteriorating. Mold appears. The repair that could have been simple becomes a much larger project. The building didn't suddenly fail. It gave warnings. The problem was that nobody listened. This is why every homeowner should understand one important principle. Buildings communicate. Cracks, leaks, discoloration, unusual smells, changes in finishes. These are not random issues. They are messages. The question is whether we pay attention early enough. Now let's look at some areas where maintenance matters most. The roof is one of the first. Your roof protects everything beneath it. But it is constantly exposed to weather. Strong sunlight, heavy rainfall, wind, debris. Over time, roofing materials age. Sealants weaken. Drainage points become blocked. Small defects can develop into larger problems. Regular inspection helps identify issues before they become expensive repairs. Next is drainage. Many homeowners focus heavily on the building itself, but they forget the systems around it. Blocked gutters, poor surface drainage, water collecting near foundations. These problems may appear outside the house, but their effects can eventually appear inside. A home is a complete system. The roof, walls, foundation, and drainage all work together. If one part fails, others may be affected. Now let's talk about finishes. Paint is not only about appearance. In many cases, it also protects surfaces. When paint begins peeling or cracking, it may indicate moisture problems or surface deterioration. Replacing finishes without understanding the cause is like treating a symptom while ignoring the illness. The visible problem may disappear temporarily, but the underlying issue remains. Brick and brain field note. Never ask only, "How do I hide this problem?" Ask, "Why did this problem appear?" Now consider mechanical systems, electrical installations, plumbing, air conditioning, water pumps. These systems require attention too. A house may appear structurally perfect while hidden systems slowly deteriorate. Regular checks can improve safety, efficiency, and performance. Another important aspect of maintenance is documentation. Many homeowners do not keep records after construction. They forget which materials were used, where pipes and cables were installed, when repairs were completed, which areas require future attention. Keeping basic records makes future maintenance easier. It also helps when selling the property because a well-documented home gives potential buyers greater confidence. Now let's return to the beginning of this investigation. We talked about foundations, concrete, reinforcement, workmanship, waterproofing. Every one of those decisions affects the future of the building. But even the best decisions need continued care. A house is not protected forever simply because it was built correctly. It is protected because people continue to care for it. Think about two homeowners. Both build identical houses. Same design. Same materials. Same construction team. 10 years later, the difference is obvious. One home still looks and performs beautifully. The other has visible deterioration. What changed? Not the original construction. The difference was what happened after completion. One homeowner treated the house as an investment. The other treated it as something finished. And that difference created two completely different outcomes. Brick and brain decision point. The cost of maintenance is predictable. The cost of neglect is not. A small repair today can prevent a major expense tomorrow. Now we have uncovered all 7 foundation and construction mistakes that can quietly destroy homes. Let's bring everything together. Before you build your dream home, remember these 7 investigations. Mistake number 1. Choosing the wrong foundation without understanding the soil. A beautiful house begins with the ground beneath it. Mistake number 2. Poor ground preparation. A foundation is only as reliable as the soil supporting it. Mistake number 3. Rushing concrete work. Strength develops through proper mixing, placement, and curing. Mistake number 4. Incorrect reinforcement. Steel must be designed and positioned correctly to perform its role. Mistake number 5. Poor workmanship and lack of supervision. Great drawings require skilled execution. Mistake number 6. Ignoring waterproofing and moisture control. Water is patient, and small problems become expensive over time. Mistake number 7. Ignoring maintenance after construction. A home remains valuable because it is cared for. Brick and brain rule number 4. A strong home is not created by one perfect decision. It is created by thousands of correct decisions made before, during, and after construction. Remember where this journey started. In episode 1, we discovered why buildings fail. In episode 2, we learned how to choose land wisely. In episode 3, we explored how design decisions shape the way we live. And now, we've uncovered what happens after the drawings are complete. Because a beautiful design is only the beginning. The real test begins when construction starts. If this investigation changed the way you think about building a home, share it with someone planning to construct. One conversation before construction begins could prevent years of regret. And if you want more investigations that help you make smarter property decisions, subscribe to Brick and Brain, like this video, and turn on notifications. Every episode is designed to help you understand the decisions behind successful homes. Because the smartest property decisions are made before expensive mistakes happen. I'm James. And this is Brick and Brain, building smarter property decisions. In our next investigation, we'll explore another decision that affects millions of homeowners. Land or house? Should you buy land first and build later? Or buy an already completed home? The answer is not as simple as many people think. We'll compare cost, risk, flexibility, financing, and long-term value to discover which choice actually makes more sense.